Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on our webinar today for springing forward on the fast track to BI Publisher forums. Okay, so our presenters today, first myself, Doug McCarthy. I'm the VP of Sales and Operations at Team Kane. I've been with Team Kane for, I guess, just over 3 years now. Prior to that, I was on the corporate side, IT, with 17 years working in JDE, starting off on the CNC side, and going from there. And with me, Rain.
Hi, yes, it's Rain Dalton. I'm a consultant with Team Kane. I've worked with Team Kane for 2 years ongoing now, and I am also the main BI Publisher developer for Team Kane.
All right, there we go. So, agenda for today. Sorry about that, folks. So we're going to just talk basics about BI Publisher. Just we never know if we've got a room full of heavy-duty BI Publisher developers or people that are just trying to figure out what indeed this BI Publisher piece is. So we'll go over some basics there. A little bit more on the technical side, some release information on when you can do things according to certain tools. I will talk about our fast track process, and I promise that's a very quick part, and what we can do with our BI Publisher packs. And then we'll get right to Rain in doing an actual demo of working directly in, well, we'll say BI Publisher, but really working directly in Word, as that's the development tool that you will see.
Okay, so before we get too in-depth here, just going to go over some basics of what BI Publisher is and how it's used. So first off, there are 2 versions of BI Publisher. There is the embedded version, which comes with your JD Edwards, and that is the one that we will be concentrating on today. It is more used for running batch jobs and modifying the output and delivery of where those reports are going. The other version is the BI Publisher Enterprise version, which is more utilized for reporting solutions and definitely used for some tools such as OneView reports. So those are the 2 distinct versions of BI Publisher. Again, we will be concentrating on the embedded version for this demonstration. The embedded BI Publisher makes use of report definitions and a BI Publisher template. The report definition is an object that handles the delivery of the report, so where it's being emailed, printed, or saved on your network. And then it uses the BI Publisher template, which is a Word document that defines what the rendered output would look like instead of your raw vanilla JDE output. One key point is that BI Publisher works with the JDE XML output. So what that means is when you're running your report, the output is in an XML format, in a hierarchical data format. And BI Publisher takes that data and renders it based on your Microsoft Word template or based on the BI Publisher template. So that's a key background information that we will actually be taking a quick look at today during the demonstration as well, just to make it clear how everything works together. And as Doug mentioned, and as I have been mentioning, all of the editing and creation of the BI Publisher template itself is done in Microsoft Word. And that's utilizing a development plugin for BI Publisher that you can download from the Oracle website. So that's what we will be taking a look at today as well, is that Microsoft Word plugin. Some key BI Publisher release information is with Tools Release 9.1.3, the data-driven outputs were introduced, and this allows you to send the output to different printers and recipients based on specific data in your report. So if your report has an email address, that can drive where the output's going, or a cost center, that can drive where the output's going to those specific printers based on that data. In Tools Release 9.1.4, some additions were made to the features for BI Publisher, allowing you to rename the output file and specify locations where the outputs are being saved, such as archiving locations on your network. And also started utilizing different queues to increase the performance. So instead of everything going into one queue, you get some additional queues for some simultaneous processing. Moving on to some key world releases. In A9.2, electronic document delivery was introduced, and that is the world version of the data-driven delivery. So sending it to emails and the different locations again for the world. In A9.3, direct print was introduced, directly printing to specific locations, and some electronic document delivery enhancements were made, which introduced bursting, batch distribution, and some transformation features. And one keynote here is BI Publisher is part of the Oracle stack, so you have the confidence that as you're going forward with upgrades and feature releases, that BI Publisher will be supported with the Oracle stack. They're trying to do their best to make sure everything works together as they're moving forward with new releases. Doug?
All right, thanks, Rain.
Yep.
So just a quick kind of high-level summary for what we think our BI Publisher packs can do for you in what we call the fast track process. Step one, pretty simple, fast start. A lot of times when people are considering a move to BI Publisher, maybe off of another third-party piece, they might be worried about having in-house developers that have the necessary skill set to be able to do the forms in the way that they want. Well, our BI Publisher packs look to just bypass that whole part of the process for you, the customers, in that our templates are pre-built for all the standard forms with all of the heavy development piece taken care of. And then once we're completed with the fast start, we're going to look towards a faster finish. It's usually a pretty quick process in taking our out-of-the-box templates, working with you to determine what tweaks might need to happen to either make it look exactly like the invoice that you're producing today, or maybe Bill in AP has just some cool ideas on what he wants to do, or putting in logic of where it needs to be saved on the network, or where a copy of the check needs to go, etc. But we work with you on all those components, all the way through on something like a payroll check and working with the bank to make whatever final tweaks that they want. End result, though, is definitely getting to that finish line or getting into production sooner than you would be able to do on your own, just getting started with BI Publisher. So next, I think we have a quick scenario, a client that we've worked with. So if anyone was out in Vegas for Collaborate, they actually did a presentation on this process. But what they were doing, they had started working on actually their payroll checks and converting those to BI Publisher. And here we note that they had been working on that for 8 weeks. I think it was slipped that they might have actually been working on that quite a bit longer, maybe not as a high priority project. But again, those developers that were in-house weren't familiar. They were trying to learn as they go, and maybe even up towards number of months, maybe even close to a year, that they were kind of tinkering and just trying to see if they could make that happen. Well, I believe they came to a webinar just like this one. They saw our templates, and within 2 weeks, we had, well, maybe not pushed all the way into production, but we had everything set and had submitted the final versions to the bank for approval. So save 6 weeks. We could say saving 6 weeks once the project had become a priority. They were still trying to work their way through that. So if we look at a quick ROI on what that would mean, if we looked at, if we just put in $75 for an average fully burdened cost for a developer, 320 hours, 8 weeks to complete that, that's $24,000. With the BI Publisher packs, what we would be looking at is a list price of around $5,000 for our Platinum version AP check. Maybe 8 hours of consulting is pretty typical, maybe even on the heavy side of getting the final tweaks done. Total cost $6,200 list price. So with that, it's a pretty easy ROI calculation. If we skip to that next slide, Rain.
This is it.
Oh, sorry, I thought we had broken that down. So 24,000 to 6,200, as you can see. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to look at that. And if you multiply that out across all of your forms, it can be a significant savings with immediate payback on that investment. So with that, as I promised, we wanted to quickly get to the demo with Rain. So Rain, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Doug. So let's get out of this one here and get into this demo. As we mentioned that we're trying to get this fast track process, we have all of these templates and everything ready. One thing to note here, which I'm just going to go over, is some background work that is required to get all of these objects set up for use in BI Publisher. As mentioned, with the embedded version of BI Publisher, all of this is already at your disposal. All of these objects are already available for you to create. So we're just going to take a quick look here at a typical project in OMW, the JDFAT client here, of 3 objects that are key for getting a report to work with the BI Publisher template. First off would be your report version itself. So right here we just have a PO for a particular version. We're pulling this into the project so that we can revise that version and just tell it to use a specific report definition. So that leads to the second object, which is a report definition. This report definition, as I briefly mentioned before, is an object that defines the delivery of this report, whether it's going to specific printers based on specific data, being sent to email recipients, saved on a network, etc. So this one object is intended for handling all of that and can also handle the definition of the bursting, how you want the report to be broken down, to be split up for different delivery methods. And then the third, and arguably the most important, is the template object itself, which is a simple object that houses the actual template, the Microsoft Word file. So these 3 objects together are created here and they're configured to link with each other so that once you run this report version, the output will be your BI Publisher template object, that rendered version instead of just the raw. So this is just a quick look at these 3 objects here, just so that you can get some base understanding that these 3 objects are created by CNC or whomever is responsible for that. And with these created, we can look at how easy it is to just move forward, making tweaks and work with BI Publisher.
So one quick note there, Rain. So for the business analysts or non-CNC people who might tend to get a little nervous when we start to throw around those OMW and CNC terms, what Rain just talked through is maybe, I don't know, a 6-minute process for someone that has access to OMW to create that project. And once that's done, you're off and running. No more CNC tasks are really required after that.
Right. That's right, Doug. So with these here, I'm just going to move out of this and back into what most of us here to look for. As I mentioned, BI Publisher works with the XML output. So what that means is when you're running your report, your UBE, the output will be in the background. You won't see this, but there will be a hierarchical organization of the data for that report. And this is what an XML file looks like. So we have here an R42565 standard SO here, an invoice, and here is one report's organized hierarchical data, organized in an XML format, and really all you have to take note from here is the fact that pieces of data have tags. For one tag that actually says this is the ship to address line 1, ID 58, pretty technical, but the data within it is dynamic. It's based on what your report's being run as, right? So you have the IDs that house the different information, and then the values themselves change based on the report that you're running. So you never really have to take a look at this, but for a key understanding of how this works with the BI Publisher development side of it, just bringing your attention to this because we will be adding an extra field here in the near future. So just one that we will be adding is the address number here. So we have address number ID 193. That basically just says this invoice number is 4242. Okay, so let's keep that highlighted here. So that's what an XML file looks like. A lot of reverse code. So now it'll look like, well, now we'll open up an actual RTF file. This is the actual BI Publisher template. And as you can see here, it's just an RTF, which is rich text format, which is a file type that Microsoft Word can save as and can open and manipulate. So I'm just going to open up a gold, what we call a gold, which is a very basic invoice here. As you can see, we only have one page, very limited data on here, but everything is on here that we need. We have the header information here, we have a logo, we have the invoice number and some order dates, company information with address lines. We have a bill to and a ship to section, and we have an area here for the actual details. So we only have one line here, but with the code we'll actually read through all of the lines and expand as it's rendered based on how many lines there are. And then we also have some subtotals and totals. So very basic and very plain, almost too simple to be useful, but what we'll take a look at here is utilizing the BI Publisher plugin. When you have your BI Publisher plugin installed, you'll notice an extra BI Publisher tab here in the Microsoft Word ribbon. And when we select that, you can see some features here for loading data, inserting some items, and previewing, and some additional tools. You can see some of these are all grayed out now. So what we'll do with the BI Publisher plugin here is we'll actually load that sample XML data. So this XML code right here has the output of a run invoice. So in Microsoft Word, we'll go and load that particular XML file in here. Let us know that it's successful. And this freed up some features now that we can insert some fields and pivot tables and charts and preview some stuff. So just to give you an idea of what that means, this plugin now is reading and loading that XML data that we got from a report that we ran. So in the preview section, we can go and hit a PDF preview. So take this BI Publisher development or this design here, load the data, and render it into a PDF so you can get a sense of what that looks like. And here we go. This now loaded all of that data in the XML. We have multiple invoices here. We have one invoice 3497, and it has 21 lines, some totals, very basic here. And then a second invoice 3466. We have some limited bill to ship to information, so we know that something's off. We can go back, do some changes. It only has one line. And we have more and more here. So this allows you to quickly see what you're developing, quickly see what the output would look like with some changes that you do. So with that, what I'll do here is quickly make a change to this. You can see just how straightforward this is. What we'll do is, because the BI Publisher plugin here is utilizing all of the Microsoft Word tools and features, the whole development is really using Microsoft Word. So we have a table here, just a regular table with rows and columns. And what we can do is we can add another row just using Microsoft Word, adding a row below. And we can manipulate the sizes, etc. You can see that we have some text here that's not gray and some text that is gray. The non-gray text here is some static text. So if we put some static verbiage here, then this will always be there. And now what we want to do is add some data from the XML. So what we'll do is we'll go to the insert section in the BI Publisher ribbon here, insert, and we'll insert a field from the data. So this dialog box opens up. And what it does here is it gives a nice, somewhat organized, but much better organized view of what that XML data look like. As I mentioned, the XML is a hierarchical representation of the data in your report. So here we have a hierarchical view of all the key fields. So let's say that we wanted to add the invoice number here, or whichever field. We can know from a developer or somebody that's been part of the process can say, we need to add an extra field here, add address number ID 193. Okay, so you can go through here and you can select address number ID 193. And in the example here at the bottom, you can see what an example of what the data would look like. So we know if they said that, or if they said add the invoice number is 4242. Can you add that? We can go through here and kind of have an indication of what the data would look like. So to add it, we just have our cursor here. We select the address and we hit, or select the particular item that we want to add, and we hit insert. And you can see it now added an extra gray box here, and that is an actual field from the XML. And we can add another one. Make some changes, make this one italic. Again, go to insert field. And this one I'm just going to insert another field. So what we did here was we added another row. We added two fields that are taken from the XML, and we had two static fields here. So as we're developing this, we want to see what the output looks like before we're uploading it and actually running the job. So we can just go to Preview PDF up here. So here you can see that a little different from the last time. We now have the extra field with the actual address number in here. We have another field here with some additional data. And that'll be pulled for each one of them. You see this one doesn't have that. So just using the Microsoft Word plugin and Microsoft Word features, we've added a new row, added some new data. One key thing to note here is that the data that we added was already on the report. So if anything is missing on the report itself, say you wanted an email address, what you would need to do is add that on the UBE itself so that it is available on the data. So it's available on the XML output that you're using in BI Publisher. And all of the development here. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, we have a few questions that are
Okay.
coming in. So maybe when you get to a good spot, if you just want to finish that thought, then maybe we can start tackling a couple of the questions.
Yeah, sure. I'll just finish one key thing here before we're done with this template is everything is done in Microsoft Word here for the development, so you don't need access to JD Edwards to do this. This can be done on somebody's computer as long as they have Microsoft Word and the BI Publisher add-in. And then that's the last thought there. Let's get to some questions.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good segue to the first question. You had mentioned about the subtotals and totals and how you can have those on multiple pages, etc. So the question is around where is the code for that? Is it in the the report, or is it in the code?
Okay. Yeah, sure. And good segue into the next little bit here is how this actually links to the data itself is, as I mentioned, these gray highlights here, they're called form fields. And these form fields house pieces of code that link to the XML and house conditional logic calculations, etc. So what we can do is I'm just double clicking on one of these form fields and it will open up a BI Publisher dialog box with some basic properties for what field are we pulling, some text to display here, some formatting. And in the advanced tab is some code. Now BI Publisher uses extended XSL and extended SQL code. That's the language that it uses. And this is basically just saying pull this one field from the XML. In here you can add conditional logic and calculations, sum of, and then the total number of orders, or et cetera, et cetera. Right now for this, it's just already calculated in the UBE, and we're just pulling one field as is and putting a format around it. So that's just done by double-clicking on a form field here.
Okay.
Okay.
So
any other questions?
Next question.
Yep.
Yep. Next question is around multi-page output. So the scenario that they said was for an invoice. if they've got multiple pages of maybe detail, would it be possible to not have the header repeat or something along those lines?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is a good segue to moving into what a more complicated report would look like, where we can actually see some of those features being utilized. So this is a very standard one. So what I'll open up now is, yeah, sure, I'll save. What I'll open up now is an advanced invoice here. And I will address exactly that with multi-page support here. So what we have in an advanced one, we have some, this is a pre-built as well, we have some advanced features in here where we have global messages, language, multiple language support, running page totals, watermarks, etc. And we also have terms and conditions being displayed on either the back of every page or only on the last page. So what this, you can see there's quite a lot of colors here with a lot of logic. But what this particular one does with the advanced code in here is we're controlling running page total. So if it goes on to multiple pages and then the last page, we don't display the header and footer because we want that to be terms and conditions. Based on your requirements, we can always work with you or create a custom one that doesn't display a header or footer in certain scenarios. One thing to note is BI Publisher working with Microsoft Word, it is subject to what Microsoft Word is capable of. So depending on what exactly you're looking for, I'm saying it's probably going to be possible with some advanced code, but that's something that we can definitely look at. For this one, what I'll do, just to give you an indication of what it looks like, is I'll load the exact same data, that same XML file, and render this in a PDF. And you can see a little bit of different output. Same data. Immediately, we have the word factor here, or facture, however you pronounce it, but this one is already set to a different language. So this one we have a toggle for different languages, which can also be run dynamically from the data. But this one is in French, and we have some additional fields here. We have pretty in-depth detail information. And then we have page numbers going on. We have a watermark in the background, and then you can see here at the last page of this, we have a different footer with modified stuff, modified currency formats. And the very last page following all the details is the terms and conditions, which doesn't have the header and does not have the footer, the total footer. Does have the running page total footer, which can be turned off and on. So I'm hoping that, was that Kimberly, right? I hope that addresses that. If you anything more in depth, or if that doesn't really get your question, by all means, just ask another one. We can go into a little bit more depth here.
Sounds good. So another quick question. People are looking for a little bit more detail on how you can get the UBE to produce the XML as opposed to a PDF. I don't know if maybe you just you can go into a little bit more detail. It's a quick process. It has to do with the steps that Rain talked about from the CNC side at the beginning.
Yes.
We do have previous webinars where we've actually walked through that, but it takes about 15 minutes. So what I would say is we can reach out to you after and either walk you through that or just kind of explain that to you so you have a better understanding. But it's pretty straightforward, simple process. Or maybe, Rain, if we have a lot of time at the end of the webinar, we could jump into that and actually walk through that. But
sure. What I can do,
we'll leave it there. Okay.
What I can do here, actually, to kind of do a two-in-one, is I went over quickly what the template looks like, how to add a field, etc. And what I can go into now is once you've made a change, where you're going to actually upload it into the system, and that's actually also a key area of where you can go and actually produce the XML versus the PDF output. So I'll just transition into that right now. Is we have this RTF file here that we went and we added a field, we made a change, right? So as a user now, I have the ability with this RTF file to go into the system here into the menus, and I'll do this here. There's a program P95600, which is the BI Publisher object repository. So once you have your RTF file ready, this object repository is a list of all the template objects in the system. So what we want to do is upload the new one, the one that we made changes to. So we can just go into the BI Publisher object repository. We can select the object that we know. We know for mine is it's named RT42565. I know that's this specific one, template for an SO. I'll select this one. It will open up quick unchangeable stuff. This is the template object that was created in the background. I don't want to make any changes to this particular these set of configurations, so I'll hit OK, and it will prompt me if I want to upload the file again. So I want to say yes, I want to upload the changed RTF file. Now here's where I'm going to address the question. An RTF file is just a rich text format file where we're having the BI Publisher template created, etc. If you want to produce the XML output, what you would do is create a blank RTF file. So open up Microsoft Word, make a new file save as RTF. That's a blank file. And you would come into here and you would browse and you would upload a blank RTF file instead of a new template object. So if you have a template object here, it actually render it into a PDF. If you have a blank file, it will just produce the XML output for you. Or at least the XML will be one of the outputs that you can download from your work submitted jobs or RD submitted jobs. To continue with this step here, we'll select the RTF file that we made the change to. We'll load it in. The effective dates, we'll just set it as is. Start date was last year. And we're good. Right now, the RTF that we made changes to is live in the system. Hopefully that addresses that one as well. So blank RTF file will help produce the XML where you can actually then go into your WSJ and your report submitted jobs. Let me just load this page quickly. So you load your template object, you run your job, and then you can go into P95630, which is submitted jobs with report definitions, or your work submitted jobs. Most people are familiar with this one. And you can go and view the output, or if it's one that's with the blank, you can go to the row and you can download the source file. That takes care of the majority of the actual live demonstration part. Is there any some additional questions there, Doug, that we can address?
There is. I'm still, well, I'll just read it verbatim, and you'll have to figure it out on the fly.
Okay.
So we use print messages for rates, but the tab does not work in print messages within E1. If this is carried over to the BI Publisher template, would or could tabs be recognized in BI Publisher to separate and line up data correctly on a PO template?
So a print message, it's like a global message, I take it. Global messages for rates, and tab does not work. Oh, but the tab does not work. So like when you're actually pressing the tab for like a space. I'll try to address that. I'm sorry if I'm not getting the full understanding of what that means, but what I can quickly do here is if you have a field that has some additional, what do we call it, white space. So if you have a cost center, there's some white space, or if you have a message with any data, there's some additional white space in there for alignment for your messages. What you can do in the code is you can trim it, which takes care of the white space, and you can use the BI Publisher alignments here to kind of align it right, center, left, right. We're using the Microsoft Word grid formats and that stuff. BI Publisher. So tabs can be recognized. Tabs are considered a white space, same with the space bar. So space bar and tabs are white space, so you can rip those out in the beginning or at the end of data, and then you can organize it within the development side here. I hope that addresses it, Jane.
All right, very good. So a couple more questions. Let's see. A question about displaying or how we can do conditional formatting. I'm not sure if that's something that we can get into.
Okay.
Time allocated.
Conditional formatting. I can talk to that. To do the conditional formatting, since we're using extended XSL and extended SQL, it would just be a line of code that says if one particular data is equal to company X, right, then it would pull a template object. So what I will do here quickly, so that we be mindful of the time here. In the actual coding, we have the terms and conditions here, for example, and it is in an actual template area. So this template area is called TC terms. So what you can do is create a template with one logo, another template with another logo, company X, Y, Z, etc. And then in the actual coding section, when you have up here, you have a conditional section here. So I can double click on that. I'll just do this for example. In the advanced coding section, you would have the XSL code that says if the company is equal to X, then you call the template name. So it'll just be an if condition, and it will call that template under that condition. And then, not to get it too advanced, but you would just repeat that process and make it however complicated in order to address what you need. Okay.
All right, very good. So as Rain mentioned, we want to be cognizant of the time, make sure we stay within that 1 hour. So fantastic, all the questions that are coming in. I do apologize if we don't get to all of them, but we will absolutely get an answer to you if we do miss your question after the webinar. Reach out to you. We can take a couple of these conversations offline as well. So Rain, maybe just one more for now. Do we have to modify the menu item to run the RD instead of the regular version that user is currently running when we implement BIP? And
I don't believe that would be necessary, because what you're doing is in your objects, when you're creating your objects in OMW, I'm kind of bringing it to there. What you're doing is you're taking, if they're in the menus running one version, they're running whatever version, then it would still remain the same version, the same report. It's just with the report definition object and revising that actual version, you're saying don't use the standard output. Instead, look at this report definition and the associated template object for the output. So a user would not necessarily experience any difference in their process, their daily processing. They're saying run this report. The only difference is it's utilizing a report definition object and a template object to then have a rendered template output. Yeah.
Okay. Did you pull up the P95600 at all? I might have missed that while I was reading through all the questions.
Yep. So P95600 is the BI Publisher object repository. So this is just a list of all your template objects in the system. This is where you would go to upload the new one.
Right, and then link it to the individual version that you want that template to work with. Right? I'm sorry if you had already said that.
No problem. So the majority of the linking is done with a report definition object, and having to define, basically configuring these three objects would link them all together and take care of the output instead of it just being the vanilla. But for a menu item, a user would just, at least my understanding goes with what the user would experience, is they would just do the standard process, run at this, here, menu selection this, but everything else here now with the embedded BI Publisher is done in the background, taking care of the output differently.
Okay, fantastic. So at this point, let's jump back over to the presentation.
Okay, so just a quick overview of putting it all together here. The templates that we have, and the ones that we actually took a look at here today, are pre-configured. They're easy to maintain and they're production ready. So we have features for controlling logo display already implemented, global messages, watermarks, multiple language support that can be, we currently have French, Spanish, and English in there. That can be manually set or can be automatically driven based on data from the XML. All of these features can be also driven from the XML. We base our reports on the most commonly used data fields that are already, so they're already in these designs. So if you have a custom version of an invoice, then you might have some additional fields, etc. So these reports would need a little bit of customization to kind of work with that, but we base ours on the standard reports. And once you make the changes, it's as easy as just loading up the new template and running the job. Just load and go. All Doug?
All right, thanks, Rain.
Yep.
I'm still looking through questions, see if there's any quick ones we could jump onto. So just kind of the summary, accelerating that project completion. I think the slide is here primarily because we like the idea of a turtle with a rocket on its back. But the important parts are all those pieces that Rain talked through and some of that more sophisticated side of things are already pre-built into your template so that you don't need to know how to do that. But of course, you can use that moving forward if you need to create another template. And our idea, our process is teaching you or knowledge transfer so that you have the ability to maintain the forms moving forward. Once you have that code in place and the forms are looking primarily how you want them, and you've got that logic and maybe saying, hey, for this company it's this logo, or for that set of customers with this address it's this language, it's easy to maintain the basic pieces. For instance, adding a field like Rain demonstrated, or tweaking where things are located, etc. I don't know if we've gone back to any customers to kind of help tweak, as they generally have that ability at the end of or the completion of most of our projects. Okay. So just a quick note. We touched on this a little bit earlier. A lot of people today are using a third-party software that they maybe have made a long-term investment on. But when you start to look at that, the TCO, or total cost of ownership, if you're paying that 20 to 22% annual maintenance, we have seen some instances or heard some horror stories of companies having to wait not just weeks, but perhaps even months or two before developer resources are available to help with their current third-party projects. And then that's usually a supply and demand and high-cost consultants to keep that up and running or make changes as your business changes. So comparing that to our BI Publisher Pack Fast Track process, giving your internal staff the skills to maintain that moving forward, therefore eliminating the future not only expensive consulting, but maintenance costs. So I know you guys are saying, wait, aren't you a consultant, saying that you're eliminating future consulting? Well, yes, that is what we're saying, and often that's our goal. So third-party software, again, some things going on in the marketplace as third parties decide that you need to upgrade or consolidate or move to their new version. That can be problematic, especially when you're trying to match versions and going along with maybe your server levels or your browsers, etc. So if you're on the Oracle stack, at least most often, we all know that it's not always the case, but Oracle does try and correspond and have things moving along at the same pace. For instance, I apologize, Rain, if you had mentioned this earlier, as I'm still trying to look at the questions coming in, and I will follow back up with some of those. But if you notice, when Rain opened up Word, it was on Word 2010. That is primarily due to Oracle just recently certified Office 365, which is what the rest of us at Kane use.
2013.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Office 2013. Not yet 365.
Thank you for that point. So at any rate, things like that of staying within the Oracle stack are beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a little bit more just on the details or the logistics of our packs. We do have the pre-built templates for all of those pieces listed there. That last one, custom reports, we do a lot of work for people that maybe it's not a PO, maybe it's not an invoice, it's whatever report that they have running for their finance or purchasing team, et cetera, and they just want to have the ability to maybe send that via email or put some conditional logic in, et cetera. So we absolutely can do that type of work. Another presentation that was just at Collaborate in Las Vegas was we were helping a customer with their total compensation statement, big success internally for them. Mm-hmm. The tax forms, Oracle does provide a lot of those templates, but if that's your first foray and you want to maybe tweak them, which doesn't happen too often because of the form needs to be the certain way, but we can definitely help you with things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And then the different packages, I think is on the next slide, Rain.
Yes.
So I know that a couple people had questions on this as well. So gold packages versus platinum. The gold package, that first example that Rain brought up was at the PO. Very plain, very, very simple. It doesn't have the things like watermarks, multiple languages, some of that more advanced technology that's, let's say you spun up a new company or you just acquired a new company and you have to kick out a very plain purchase order. Maybe it's just internal, something along those lines. That'll get you there. The Platinum package is where we incorporate all of that more sophisticated development work, the watermarks, dynamic language, logo, maybe more advanced logo features. Mm-hmm. And then as far as when we start talking about checks, we'll add in some development time to make sure that we're dealing with what the bank comes back with if you're getting those approved. And of course, multiple pack purchases would create an opportunity for discounts. Mm-hmm. Rain, anything I missed on design and packages that you can think of?
Nope, that covers it all.
Okay. And so our marketing folks they're not alone in their love of perhaps certain Star Wars movies. So may the BIPs be with you for the month, although we're getting towards the end of the month here. But we have been running this program where if you do get one template, we'll give you another one for free, which is pretty handy. Most people, once they see the ease of getting that into their environment, I don't know if we've ever only worked with a customer that got one template and only one template. So yeah. I guess the BIP Jedi Masters, that you're the head Jedi Master then, Rain? Is that how I would interpret that?
I will undertake that title, no problem.
Okay. So I know we've just got a few minutes left, so I think there's a couple more slides on Team Kane. So Team Kane, in general, we are based in Peterborough, Ontario, hence the a little bit of funny accent from Rain on those things like projects or things of that nature. I myself am based in Connecticut in the U.S., but we have been doing consulting, perhaps not Rain and I, but Team Kane has been a consulting service partner for over 20 years now. all things JDE, upgrades, migrations, spot consulting, etc. We do partner with a few different companies where we think that their product is kind of a best of breed and can help expand what you can do with your investment in JD Edwards, like Purge It from Click IT, a lot of Forza consulting products, ScanMan, Pacman, self-source password reset, and a few other ones there that we would actually be more than happy to talk to anyone about. Right, and I think from a last slide perspective, I will maybe if you just want to go to the next slide, we have some contact information up there. That first line there, send us a sample XML output. That's a really important one. If you are thinking about, hey, what will this take, and maybe you have a R55 42565, or you just want to see what your data looks like in our template. Well, all you have to do is send us an XML output, and we'll show you how it looks. And as I mentioned earlier, we're more than happy to help walk you through how to get that XML output. Again, it's usually maybe a 15, 20-minute phone call at most. We can do a go-to meeting like this and actually walk you through you on your actual JD Edwards environment if you'd like. But there's my contact information, Stuart Manley, our Senior Account Executive, information as well. Please, again, if we did not get to your questions or you have additional questions, reach out to us, let us know. I'm more than happy to get Rain on a phone call with you to talk through that.
Absolutely.
With that, I will, by my clock, we've got a few minutes left, so I'm going to quickly take a stab at some of the other questions here. Do you have any forms that have its own calculation for subtotals? The amounts come from the UBE, but not the subtotals. So I would say absolutely, you can calculate that on the fly. Is that correct, Ray?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do our Platinum versions that have running page totals, etc. do already have code in there for calculating subtotals and totals thus far and continuing the calculations, etc. If it's the totals already on the report, then it's a simple matter of pulling it. If it's not, the BI Publisher does have the ability to do some math, some calculations in there. Absolutely.
Great. That brings us to kind of reminds me of something that we've done for a few clients now, mainly around checks, where we have worked with a couple of different companies. I don't know how many at this point, but larger enterprises that have multiple levels for signature approval. So if a check is $25,000 or lower, it's one signature and it's Bill. If it's 50 to 100, it's two signatures and it's Bill and Jane, etc. We have the templates that can accommodate that type of logic. And in addition, we've done a little bit in creating some custom codes to work within JDE to give you a front end to manage that type of a situation, so that if instead of Bill, it's Sally now that needs to have that signature there, well, you don't need to go into the actual code and change that. You can do that through a screen or a front end in JDE to manage all of that type of information, along with changing bank accounts or things along those lines. So for people that have a lot of manipulation in that type of area, we definitely have a process that I think would make sense for you. I know we're at 3 o'clock, so we always try to be cognizant of that, and we appreciate everyone taking the time to attend. And thank you absolutely for all the fantastic questions. That definitely is our goal in making it as interactive as possible and getting you the information that you need. As I've mentioned, please, we apologize if we did not get to your question, and we will be following up, and please reach out to us if you do have questions that you did not get answered or think of after. As you exit, remember the survey. You can do that quickly. We'll be picking someone randomly for that $30 gift card. We look forward to hearing from you and talking to you in the future. So with that, we'll call it a day. Rain, thank you. Good job as always. And
thank you.
See you soon.